Did I say what's up, guys? Or the worst part I hate about doing YouTube videos?
Like an old man trying to get hit with the kids. What's up? How are you doing?
Real, it's your boy T-Rex. How's it going, guys? My name's Trex. This is Private Dancer. We're both casters for the North American Squad League, as some of you may already know. And as a lot of you may also know, the North America Challengers Tournament is coming. I just recently posted a video on that last week. It's going to be starting live stream right after 4th of July. So make sure you guys tune in to the North American Mobile Legends YouTube channel to watch that. But today, we're going to be talking about something that I feel like anyone new to the North American Mobile Legends scene would probably like to hear. I get people who ask me all the time, who's your favorite team in North America? Who are the best teams in North America? And today I have someone who knows a lot about the teams just like me. We watch most of these teams play pretty regularly, and what we're going to be doing is kind of creating a tier list, if you will, of what we consider the top teams in North America. If your team is not on this list, if you're a new team that's competing in the Challengers Tournament or anything like that, we apologize. We just, as casters, have not had the opportunity to see you yet. If you do amazing in this tournament, your logo may be on here next time. But for now, these are the teams that we know. These are the teams that we've gotten to know over the past year, the teams that we see compete pretty regularly. How are you doing today, Private?
I'm doing great. I mean, we are so close. I can taste it. And I am so excited to talk about some of these teams because there's just so much to be said about the competition in NA right now.
Yeah, it's definitely, I think over the past few months, the past 6 months, since probably the North American Challenge Tournament that happened in Christmas or so, a lot of these teams have just been playing regularly. We're on season 3 of the league. A lot of these teams have been in the league since season 1. They've been practicing regularly, playing regularly, getting their rosters together, just getting better and better and better. And we talk about it all the time on during league, during casts, how the teams of NA are just getting stronger and stronger. So honestly, when I thought about doing this tier list, I was thinking about how hard it was going to be. And then you were mentioning earlier how many teams are going to get mad at us, right?
Well, it's honestly to say, like, especially from last year, I think that was kind of a wake-up call to a lot of NA teams, just to see, and especially M3, to see how well the teams that we sent performed there and why. And that was because of practicing, scrimming, and taking this stuff seriously. And I think a lot of teams took that to heart. And that's what we're going to be discussing today is like how well, where these teams are now, as opposed probably from last year.
Most definitely. I think, like you said, BTK made it to M3. We see the possibilities of American teams doing well on the stage. And I think that's kind of what we're going to be breaking down here, too, is like, could other teams do well on the world stage other than BTK? And as a lot of you can probably see, we have BTK on this list. For those that don't know, they're competing in the upcoming Challengers Tournament, so we had to include them. And just to give everyone a quick brief, the teams here, there was 10 teams that were invited into this Challengers Tournaments for how well they did in past events, for how well they compete in my league, things like that. So they were invited. So that's another reason why we chose these teams. We just have a pretty typical tier list. S tier being like, top team that probably could go to Worlds, teams that, are the cream of the crop. I also have a wild card, which I really only have like one team, maybe two teams in mind for that. You could consider it the dark horse team, the wild card team, a team that's just kind of hard to get a just on and really decide on how far, because sometimes they do really good, sometimes they don't do well at all. So pretty typical. I'll share this tier list in the description below. If you want to make one of your own, post it in our Discord. The Discord will also be shared in the description below. And if you haven't already, guys, don't forget to hit the like and subscribe for any content coming out. We stream the only league in North America for Mobile Legends every Saturday and Sunday. So make sure you guys check in. And without further ado, Private, I think we can... you ready?
Yeah, I am ready. Let's go ahead and get into it.
We did kind of mix up the teams a little bit, and I tried doing this by myself the other day, Private, and I was like, I didn't know which one I wanted to start with, but we'll just start at the front. Insomniacs, right?
Yep.
I think Insomniacs is. I guess I'll start. I think, and you could start on the next team. I think Insomniacs is a very good team. I think I personally believe they're at least A. They could be S. It's just like when I look, and during the end of this, we might do some shifting around of everything. But when I just look at some of the other teams, I wonder if Insomniacs could compete with some teams like, BTK down the line, things like that. So I don't know if I want to put them in S just yet. They do have some amazing players. You have Ashley, who's probably one of the best mages. She's been a little off though, like from what me and you have been seeing. I feel like her mage gameplay hasn't been as top tier, I think, that it was in season 2. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Yeah, I mean, we did see a first match where they went up against Deuce Knights. They had a very great first game. Ashley played a very dominant Farza, but we did see that once the walls start to come down around her, and she doesn't have that protection, she kind of floundered a bit. Took, I think, 12 deaths in the second game when they really targeted and honed in on her. When she's given enough space, man, she can make miracles happen. Yeah. But we did see that there were some issues with the game plan when she was specifically honed in on. But I mean, that doesn't speak, especially with this most recent game against Area 77.
That they took the win on.
Yeah, they took the win, an upset win. I don't think anybody was expecting that. Definitely not the casters. But I mean, I don't know how many viewers, and you might have some diehards, but I mean, logically speaking, I mean, that was an upset, and it spoke very well for how well that Insomniacs can come together.
Yeah, I mean, they've always, since season 1, they've been a very strong team. Or since season 2, they've been a strong team. They've done well in the NACTs. They've done well. They always make it to playoffs. So, I mean, again, these little critiques that I think we're giving them are, they're minor. They're the things that I think separate them from A tier to God tier, and I think that they definitely have the capabilities. But there may be another team that I think maybe just kind of lacks, there's two teams on here that I think are have the abilities to be cream of the crop, World Cup challengers, but they just maybe lack the drive and practice resume and things like that. And you can see it sometimes outfold in those little games, here and there.
Well, we touched on it a little bit. Some teams have a very big base for how well they perform, and then what happens when they make mistakes. I feel like Insomniacs kind of sits at the top of that, where when they have great games, they have absolutely stunning and great games. But when mistakes happen, sometimes it can kind of flounder, whether it's in draft, whether it's during the game, being able to come back from a deficit, and take it. And that's kind of what separates, I want to say, the A and the S tier, is that ability to always stay at that just glorious playing position. But I mean, if there's any place to be doing where they're going to be at their tip top performance, best suit, best haircut, ready to play, I think the Challenger tournament is where that's going to come out especially for a team like Insomniacs.
Yeah, I definitely think this will be a great opportunity to really see with such a big thing, and so many teams now coming back out of the woodworks and stuff competing. I think it'll be a great opportunity not only for these teams but for newer teams as well to prove themselves. Maybe catch some wins against teams like Area 77. I mean, or Insomniacs and stuff like that.
Well, I mean, and that's something that some people overlook. The first round is going to be just one and done. Can you get that upset over a really big or very powerful team? I mean, Insomniacs has shown. Yeah.
No, you just thinking about that kind of stuff makes you nervous. It's yo, what if this team loses first round? What if there's just a big choke? Things like that. So next team, we'll let you start with this one because I know you're
First
a fan.
Blood. Yeah, I am a big fan. Honestly. Man, I wish I could put them a little higher, but it's honestly interesting. I'm gonna go ahead and say A.
Hey, okay.
I would put B just because I have not seen them tested. But I'm a person of hope. I'm a person who believes, who's gonna I had that hope for Deuce Knights as well. I'm a big fan of theirs, but First Blood has come on so strong. And I want that to continue. This is more like a want list for me. Like I said, I was gonna say B just because I haven't really seen them tested against those really top tiers. But what I have seen is dominance with whether it's R in that marksman position or when we have restart memory, Joybaj, bro. It has become just a complete package on this team right now. The only thing is I did see sometimes it depends on what we're going to be going with on the roster. I have seen sometimes because they don't have a perfect record with the squad league right now. Yeah, they don't have a perfect record, and I feel from what I've seen, it's when they start juggling things around on their roster, when Luffy isn't there or when R isn't there, and they have them bench to try new things, and then when they bring them in, when they bring those guys back in, those permanent parts of the roster, like it's just an unbeatable machine that I've seen so far. But like I said, we haven't really seen them against those the Valley or Area 77 yet. We haven't seen those really like teams that don't make mistakes, teams that don't that have perfect drafts and get what they want. We haven't seen them really come from too far behind or have to climb from too far behind when the game's on the line.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if I would quite put them in A. I don't know. Like I think I think that's the question, right? Like I need like 2 or 3 more weeks to see them compete.
Yeah, honestly, that's what I was saying.
Place them just because like yes, they look so good right now. Like another thing I got to give to those that don't know First Blood, they're a pretty relevantly new team to the competitive scene. Like yes, they may have been together. Don't quote me on how old the team actually is, but when it comes to the competitive scene in NA, they are definitely a newer team. This is their first time in the league. I think they've only been in one other NACT under this name and under this roster. But what I like about them is they have like a coach / manager, Afnan. So they have someone that's kind of like driving them, keeping them going, which a lot of teams don't have. And I think that really gives to the effect of why they do so well. I think a little bit of organization for a team goes a long way. And that's probably one of the driving issues with a lot of these teams. You know, when I said that Insomniacs kind of feel like they don't always have the drive sometimes, it's because they don't, like, none of these teams have orgs behind them like overseas. They're all just a group of friends playing. But First Blood, you know, there's some other teams, we'll talk about New Wave later, things like that kind of have something over them that helps keep them in check. And I think that's one of the reasons why we see First Blood do so well. And I do think the opportunity is there. My problem is I do not think they're at Area 77 level. I do not think that they're at the level of other teams. And to put them on the tier of Insomniacs is kind of hard for me. I think
honestly, and that's what I was saying.
Like it's like they're definitely, but I also think that like some other teams that we put in B maybe they're going to be better than. So like they're definitely.
Yeah, and that's why I was going to say.
Can we get a B and a half?
And B would have been, yeah. If there was a B and a half, I would put them, and not because of like I was saying, I just want to reinforce. It's been nothing but impressive. But if you have not seen them against the top teams yet, it's hard to say, yeah, they're at this level right now. And that's why I said, like, I prefer to err in hope, but like, I mean, honestly, yeah, in between B and A, or maybe even B at right now, if we're going to go off what they have faced, what I am sure the level is at, the for sure level is at least B.
Yeah, for sure.
So I mean, it for sure, definitely at B level. I think NACT, the Challenger tournament, will definitely give us a very for sure answer if they belong in A as well.
Yeah. We'll leave them an A for now, and as we bring in some more things, we may move some stuff around. Actually, no, we're putting them in B for now. B for now.
Winner sets ablaze.
All right, Area 77.
This is you.
This is Area 77. I'm sorry. I think I really, you know, Insomniacs. All right, let's start with this. Right, Insomniacs did just beat Area 77, right? But I still think that Area 77 wins more games out of them. I still think, like, when it comes down to it, Area 77 has a better track record. And honestly, like, for me, I put Area 77 as possible winners of the NACT. I think it's possible for them. I almost want to do BTK just to like kind of give an example, but like, so for those that don't know, most likely BTK is going to be at the top. BTK will be at the top of this list, right?
Is it most likely?
Yes, we put them in the end here, but BTK is going to be at the top of the list, right? So, and to justify my effect is like, I think BTK is the best team in America, right? Now, and I'm getting to why I think Area 77 can win scrims against BTK. I think like 1 out of 3. I don't think it's a 50-50 all the time. I don't think Area 77 is better than BTK, but I think that Area 77 can win a scrim here and there out of BTK, which means if they can make that scrim count, make it so it's the finals, you know what I'm saying? There is the opportunity for Area 77 to take that. I do not think Insomniacs have that capability. I don't know. I don't believe that Insomniacs have that capability. I don't believe a lot of teams here have that capability. So that's why I'm putting Area 77 in S tier, just because I think that like if it comes down to a final match between BTK and another team, I think Area 77 is one of the only teams here that could possibly take that win. That's my opinion. I mean, they're a solid team. Yeah. They've been playing. They're one of the only teams that I've had the same roster for over a year now. I think if they put their minds to it, they are definitely, like possible world stage team.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, it's interesting. It would be kind of greedy to make like this a 10-tier system where we could adjust every little tweak of where certain people belong. I have seen Area 77. I've seen their scrims against BTK. I think the last one I watched went 2-2, where they were tied, but that was before BTK went to the Philippines to go ahead and train up and start pumping iron over there to get themselves ready. And unfortunately, I mean, and just recently, man, it's this last match that Area 77 had with Insomniacs. As strong as a team that Area 77 is, that kind of the loss they took to Insomniacs, I mean, that it puts them on. It doesn't make them less of a team, but it does waver that rock and solid form that we've seen. So we do know that there are still holes in their gameplay. There are still holes in kind of the draft. So I mean, it's interesting to me. I would love nothing more for Area 77 and BTK to go at it and make it one of those games where you're like, man, they're giving them a run. They're giving BTK a run for their money right now in NA. As far as the league, as far as playing competitively against each other, since BTK does sit out a lot of that. I mean, Area 77 has been up there. They're popular. They're popular for a reason, because sans BTK, they have been a dominant force here so far, and I don't think that that the matches against Insomniacs really kind of wavered that a bit. I feel like they're still going to be very dominant. I do think if this is another half one, I would say A into S, probably just because of like that S tier is such a pristine thing. It's going to be that team that doesn't make mistakes, that practices 16 hours a day. Yeah. But Area 77 is along with Insomniacs, I would say A. Honestly, I would say A, because they are a team who, talking with them, watching them play, watching them practice, watching them scrim, they take it seriously. Yeah. And you were kind of touching on before in NA, that's an issue that we kind of have, because we don't actually have orgs. We don't have a lot of coaches that are sitting back there as the boat master beating the drum saying row for these guys to practice. It's all on them. But row. But Area 77 is one of those teams that does take it seriously, that does strategize, that does do scrims whenever possible. Yeah. So I mean, that's a big one there for me. So I would put them in A tier because it has not been proven yet, and that's what we were talking about. If you have not been proven, if they beat BTK, S tier automatically. But as of yet, for me, even though they were kind of tying in scrims right now, it still is not proven to me. So I would go with A tier.
All right. Since I brought the First Bloods down, we'll let you bring the Area 77s down one. It's fair. It's it's a 1-for-1. New Wave. New Wave is so. Before we jump into New Wave, I want to say something real quick. To those that don't know, New Wave's a Mexican team. They just competed in Liga Latam. They got 4th place in Liga Latam, which is essentially like the MSC of South America. They did good. They definitely had some things under pressure of being on a huge stage like that. I was talking to Big Gamer a little bit after it was all said and done. There's definitely that, on stage presence pressure that I think that in itself takes practice. Now, they are not like they have to be able to compete in this. They have to have at least 3 American players on their team, meaning that even if one of those American players is a sub, I think they're bringing BTK Kuch as one of their players. I do not think they're going to have to be forced to have like 1 or 2 subs essentially. So it's not full New Wave lineup, meaning that they're another team that I think could possibly take a game again, could take a scrim against BTK, could take a game against BTK. But, with whatever's going on until I don't really know exactly if they're going to have the full 5 or not, which I don't think they are. It's hard for me to put them here. I think I personally put them in A tier as well.
Yeah. And honestly, that roster makeup, man, it's to me, I'm going to tell you, I was a huge fan. I came in last season of the squad league and was able to catch a little bit of the normal league into the playoffs. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to tell you, New Wave impressed me. Back then they were known as TSU. Something else, but yeah, TSU. And they really, man, the ferocity in which they were able to dispatch teams made me a huge fan of them. Even matches against Area 77, even matches against Insomniacs. And unfortunately for the last Challenger tournament, because they were a Mexican team, because they didn't have all of that, the subs and stuff ready to go, they weren't able to compete, which I would have loved to see. Yeah. Because from what I saw with how well they dominated, I was like, man, I would love to see what they look like against the tip top of NA. Being maybe a BTK, if that is BTK, but I would love to see them or see scrims like that. Unfortunately, right now, 2 things. The roster changes, like you're talking about. It does, man, it's such a huge effect. They are one of those teams that take it seriously. I would say, as far as taking it seriously, above Area 77, above Insomniacs, as how far they take it seriously. They have a coach. They're on BTK level
when it comes to professionalism. Yeah. They're essentially an org.
Absolutely. Yeah, exactly. And then that's kind of what there needs to be more of in NA. Honestly, this is almost like the beacon of what a team should be in NA if you want to take this seriously, if you have actual aspirations of making it big as a pro team. And that's what they do. Unfortunately, with the roster changes, it kind of threw a little wrench into the play there. I think when we interviewed them last season, one of the biggest things they said as a strength was keeping the same people, always playing together. I think one of the critiques they had said about NA is players are always diving from different teams to different teams, whereas they have stayed together, they played together, they know each other. Probably one of the biggest strengths of we keep mentioning, and I hate doing it, biggest strengths of BTK is they've been playing together for so long. They have that synergy, and that is what New Wave counted as when they won the last squad league. Is that what they said is that they had that synergy. They play together. They stay together through thick and thin. Whether they're victorious or whether they have issues, they're going to keep on going together because they know they already have that synergy. And unfortunately, right now, when you do mix up that roster, admittedly, they already know it's going to be issues. It's going to be problems right now that they've been having. And that's kind of why I don't think they're as strong as they were, but I do want to see them kind of take that crown back in the Challenger tournament. Yeah,
I mean, they won. So in Christmas, they were allowed to compete. They took the Challengers tournament. They won the second season of the NASL. They're definitely a monster of a team. And I don't think their roster is going to be like right now for the first 3 weeks of the NASL. If anyone's just learned about New Wave through that is not your best bet, because right now they're practically because their whole team has been in South America for the past month. So like they just got back last week, I think. So like we're finally going to get to see them play at like maximum capacity over the next month, which will be really nice. So I do think like they're like if they come with their A game, if they do their thing, they're definitely like top 4 finish. You know, they're definitely like I think in the NACT that they won, they beat Area 77 in like the 8 in the number 8 bracket or something like that, like the 8 through 4 bracket or whatever. So like. And I see them beat teams like Insomniacs, beat teams like Area 77. Like these 3 teams right here are like, you know, the guys that it's like rock, paper, scissors, you know, one day you beat me, one day we beat you, one day I beat you, you know, so it's definitely a team to keep your eyes out if you're just coming in new. You mentioned it, like they're like the epitome, I think, of what teams should be driving for right now, at least professionalism wise. Do I still think they have a few things to work on? I think their drafting could be critiqued a little bit. Like me and you were talking about my their drafting in Liga Latam. There were some things that I caught that I was like, yo. And again, I don't know if it was the pressure. I don't know if it was you go from like North America competing regularly over here down to South America where the meta might be slightly different and you have to adjust some things, or you feel like maybe I think what happens to a lot of teams is like you think you have to adjust to something. It's like, well, this is what everyone's picking down here. And it's like, maybe you should have at least given what you had before a try before you jumped right into it. You know what I'm saying? Before you just like switched everything, your whole approach to everything up. So we'll see how they do when they come back. I think no matter what, they get like top 8.
Yeah, I do. Like I said, that was going to be my second point. There was their what happens on the main stage. I mean, we've seen over here in NA where they can be dominant. In Liga Latam, I don't want to go out there and say like they were bad choices. They were choices that I didn't understand. I know I've talked a little bit with them. We've gone back and forth about how they like to draft. They are not afraid to draft something into the late game. I sometimes question stuff like that, especially once we start getting up in the higher tiers where a lot of teams don't let you get to that late game. They're gonna come at you full force, put so much pressure on with every kill. They're gonna start taking objectives and stuff like that. And I was actually kind of marveled at the way that New Wave could draft into the late game and actually make it successful.
Back,
Yeah. But unfortunately, like in Liga Latam, and I'm not sure if that was kind of the same problem, but they did have some issues there. So, and that's kind of why they're kind of like balanced here right now at A. And honestly, these A's, that's the A tier is going, it's in flux right now. It will be in flux as we go into the Challenger tournament. Any one of these teams could probably move up with some good victories behind them.
Yeah.
And that's what's really good about that tier right now.
Most definitely. So up next, we have a team that I honestly like. I put it here just because it's a bit of a known team, and I'm sure there are going to be some fans who like ask. Aether Explicit. Aether Explicit competed in the first 2 leagues. They've competed in just about every Challengers tournament and community tournament. They were very well known. They have AE Riles. Boca Roscoe just came on as their mage in the past like 4 months or so. They are going to be competing. They did not compete in season 3. I think there was just some things going on. I don't know any exact details, so I'm not going to quote anything. But they will be competing. I honestly don't know. I don't know if they're like practicing like that. And even if you are like playing ranked games, I'm at a point now where when I look at a team, like if all you're doing is playing ranked games, then you're not really practicing to me, you know? Like, I think
there comes a point, especially right now, we're starting to hit, and that's why I'm kind of enjoying NA right now. We're at a point where ranked games are no longer pretty much testing you for our professional scene right now. You're gonna have to be scrimming with those teams that are at the top. I would say, like, honestly, as far as what has been tested, I've been saying that over and over again, so I need to be fair to all the teams. What has been tested right now? I haven't seen AE in a match against a team that of the caliber that First Blood is and come out on top yet.
Yeah.
That has yet to be seen. AE Riles, I know, is very popular streamer, does have a great pool for assassins and junglers, loves that position. Boko Roscoe, can't talk about his mage enough. Even, I do believe I've seen one match with him when he first started. I can't remember if that was on the Squad League playoffs. He had one match with Aether Explicit where he stood out like immensely on a Farza with Flame Shot, was just annihilating people, sniping them down, great positioning. Unfortunately, he's been moving. He's been in flux. Basically,
the whole
had his
team,
own team.
I feel
Kingdom,
like,
yeah, he's had his own team, Kingdom, which wasn't as successful in the Squad League, but he is a very knowledgeable player. Both of those guys right there, very knowledgeable players about this game. And I feel like this is going to be one of those dark horse teams that if there is a team that is at a position where they can rise in the Challenger tournament, it's going to be this one. Is going to be like my bet for that's going to be coming up and making a lot of waves, just because of the amount of intelligence that is on that team and the amount of skill that is there. However, like I said, we've talked about that synergy that you need to build with a team. They've had a few months, but I mean, and which is a decent amount of time for teams in NA, but in the bigger picture, when you're looking at teams like Area 77, New Wave, Insomniacs, even First Blood, I mean,
like
you're talking about teams who have been... Yeah, you're talking about teams that have been together for a very long time, continually playing. When the losses come, it's like, all right, it isn't an immediate call to arms to change around the roster. They just stick with it until they can get better from it. And that's right now is what needs to be proven from AE to probably get higher on this list. Like I said, we've seen First Blood, we've seen how well that they've been playing. I know Aether Explicit, they didn't participate in the Squad League, probably from what I've heard, is because the time constraints. They wanted to start training up. They wanted to kind of come together as a team and start getting that experience under their belt and playing together. And I mean, they all, I mean, as far as how much time, at the very least, how much time Riles and Boko Roscoe put into this game, I feel like if all the players were at that type of dedication, we would start seeing them move up very quickly. It just remains to be seen is if that knowledge that those two share can be spread amongst the team. If we can go with one voice, that's a big thing too as well. Is what you sometimes get with streamers, people with that type of skill level, can be a bit of an ego. And what I have felt when it comes to Kingdom, when it comes to Aether Explicit, one of my, I don't want to call it critiques, but one of the main struggles I've seen from them is working as a unit, working together. Are they one voice? If somebody makes the call, does the entire team drop what they're doing and kind of gather on that call? It's been said before, I say it a lot, is that even a team doing the wrong thing can be victorious if they're all doing it, if every single person is trying to do that. And that is something that separates some of those teams that come together and helps them build that synergy. Is if you just like, if you hear the call, you're like, let's go do it, like unquestioning. And that's what we're remaining to be seen. But I'm very excited, and I definitely am pumped up to see what they can bring. Since I haven't seen too many matches of them in the Squad League, but I am definitely I definitely hear a lot of things, and I definitely am interested to see what they bring there to the Challenger tournament. They
definitely have the potential. I just think it needs to be applied at this point. And sorry, AE fans, but I definitely feel like for now they have to sit in C tier, and we'll see how things goes. You know, we'll see how they compete, but until they apply it a bit more and we actually see it with our eyes, I personally got to put them there. On to the next team, Deuce Knights. I created this part of the tier list. This does not mean it's below everything, just because. So Deuce Knights, I call them on Streamcast sometimes like the wild card team. And the reason for this, and like you could think of it as like dark horses, but I don't really think dark horses is the correct term, because dark horses is used as more for like the mystery, like the team that comes in out of nowhere that no one really knows too much about and like does really well in a tournament, right? The team you kind of have to watch out for. But in a sense, Deuce Knights are kind of a team you have to watch out for. They're so abstract when it comes to drafting, and I've seen them, and this is the thing about them, like I could put them in, I literally, depending on the day I watch them, I feel like they could go into any three of these. Like they could be an A-tier team sometimes. Like when I see them like stick to the meta and like do something, like when they want to just like be your typical meta following team, they know how to do that. They do, because I've seen them. And then they also sometimes pull out some really random picks. They have that Mia gold lane that comes in. They have this like some, and sometimes it works amazingly. They got a win out of Insomniacs with some weird picks. And then sometimes, like the last NACT, they bring in they were in the final four, they bring in some weird picks up against the Simpsons and just get completely wiped the whole way through. So like, I think it works for them sometimes. I think it doesn't. And I think that whole effect, I've mentioned it in cast before, that like, I think it just adds this layer that almost makes it hard to draft against them. It almost makes it kind of psychological going against them. And it really just, I think, defines the name like wild cards. Like I don't really have a place I could put them because it just depends on the game for me.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing about Deuce Knights, I feel like, is a double-edged sword for them, is those outside picks, those off the wall picks of what they play very, very well. And it's interesting enough that you mentioned about them losing to the Simpsons, but they also won against the Insomniacs in the opening night of the Squad League. And this is what we talked about. I touched on it a little earlier about Ashley from Insomniacs taking a ton of deaths. Not entirely her fault. Deuce Knights drafted three assassins. I don't care how great your positioning is as a mage. You would see her dodge two assassins. You're like, all right, but here comes Saber toward the end and like is able to like alter and still bring her down. And it was just an amazing game to watch. But those picks, they work when the opponent isn't really prepared for it, might not have seen it before. But I think against more knowledgeable teams, sometimes they kind of flounder when the teams know, all right, we see three assassins. All right, what are we going to do? We're going to go a little bit more tankier, and we're going to make sure that we have some disengagement for our Farja. I think when it comes to teams that are more established, that have that in the back of their minds of what they can do, they might flounder a bit. But I'm going to tell you, like, they are a very fancy team to actually see go up there with what they pick. Maya, you would never, I mean, when I saw that, I scoffed. When I see a Maya pick, I'm like, bro, like, why am I here? Like, what are these guys going to do? And then you see the Maya go like 11-4. It's the most ridiculous thing in the world during team fights. However, one thing I do want to add to is when I initially saw them, Easy Peasy, one of their cores, the jungler. I have not seen him this season. It was one of the biggest things for me to see last season with him, as he was able to basically lead the team on that Ling. It was actually amazing to see, because he would be able to put picks into stuff that it's almost like Deuce Knights don't care about the meta and are just gonna force their way through the meta. Like we saw him pick a Ling into a Barats, into like the tankiest team you've ever seen. It should not have worked, but just the amount of pressure until like we were getting to the end game where Ling was finally able to start doing some damage. The rest of the team was able to surround those tanky characters, isolate them out with the guidance of and following behind Easy Peasy. I have not seen that this season. And I don't know I'm not sure what's going on. What last I heard, he was on vacation or something. And I haven't seen that same type of synergy with their current jungler. Let me see. Nazira. Yeah, I haven't really seen that same type of synergy with Nazira right now. So, I mean, it is kind of a wild card. However, if I had to place them, I think that they would probably be at around, it would be in between like it's difficult. Like I say, they can average up there with the A with the A tier.
But they could also lose to a C tier here and there, you know?
Yeah, they also can lose to a C tier, which is why it's interesting. And I would put them at the wild card. I mean, yeah, that's actually, I guess, a perfect position. I mean, the medium to me would even be like C.5, B over there. But like, I mean, wild card, these guys, they perform and they always kind of come up with something. It's honestly something I hate because I don't want to see Maya's in ranked. I don't want people to see this stuff and be like, hey, I'm going to use Maya because they made it look easy.
Or the overseas people come in chat and like, look at this trash meta. You come into the stream for 5 minutes and you're like, oh, this is all of North America just right here.
But they make it work, and it's honestly, of all the teams, Deuce Knights always catches me as a team that is having fun. Yeah. Like it's not, I don't feel like when I watch them, they're kind of doing whatever what they feel like. They're not going to be confined into a meta. They're not going to do something that's uncomfortable to them. They're going to go off of their comfort, and they have a wild success with it. And honestly, that's another one. This is why I've said like First Blood, Deuce Knights have been a personal favorite of mine. I don't think they're the greatest team in the world, but they've been a personal favorite of mine to watch.
Yeah, for sure. And I think I'm excited. Like you said, I'm excited to see how they do. And I think they're another team that's just getting better and better. On to the next one. All right. So up next we have the Valley. You can take off with this one if you want.
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead. Right there at tier A. Right now, the Valley has been so dominant. In the squad league, they've done something that I really admire that other teams haven't. Whereas when the Valley takes a victory, they don't use that second game to test something out, to practice with something, or to flex around. What they do is they go ahead and they come on and use that momentum and crush in the second game, which has been getting them an amazing amount of points and which has kept them very dominant and in first place in the squad league. And honestly, from all the teams here, the Valley they just have that I want to say that veteran look. They've been there for a while. They've consistently been in the playoffs. They always have a very skilled game. And it's admirable to see as an A tier, but they do kind of lack, I want to say drive. They kind of remind, the drive. I want to say they're the geniuses, but lazy almost. Yeah. I wouldn't call them lazy. They are so skilled, but I don't think a lot of the players on that team are and that's what separates them from the rest of these A tiers right now. Is I feel like the taking it seriously type of intensity that the rest of these teams do, that I think might might edge the rest of A tier slightly up above the Valley here, just because I mean they're great, but I feel like I don't really know that they practice, that they scrim a lot, that that it is something that they take as seriously as the rest of them. But man, it's amazing to me, and that's something part of NA that I think is really interesting is how great they are, and the where the roof is for them if they did kind of hunker down. We've talked before about it. I think like this is part of my speaking, but kind of like the Gosu refugee team, basically.
Yeah, I mean, you have Basic, Yuzi. We used to have Gosu Yujin on there as well. He dropped. Now you have Guapo and who's their others? So it's Basic, Yuzi, Guapo, Arvel, and Raquel right now. Raquel's on there as well, who's the mage. She's like kind of like the newest addition to this season since Yujin left. So yeah, you have like several Gosu players who aren't playing under the name as Gosu, but are playing under the Valley.
Yeah, and they've been like I said, they're just so skilled skilled. I feel it almost feels like it's crazy to me. It feels like I almost feel like they don't even really talk to each other. It's basically just like, all right, let's just go ahead. They run it like it's a ranked game, but because they're so skilled and they played together for so long, it always flexes up, and they do so well at stuff like this. And they have been tested. That's the reason I put them above First Blood. I would love to see First Blood and the Valley go at it and see where both of these teams stand. But the Valley has been tested. They have gone against those top teams. They have been victorious in these games, and it's been a sight to see. But like I said, they're as skilled as they are. If you're not practicing every day, if you're not going with pick bands or something like that, there's going to be a point where you hit a wall. And I feel like at that's where they're going to start hitting those walls against these teams that have the drive, the hunger for it right now.
Yeah, I think you nailed on the head when you said like intensity. Like the Valley is a team that almost frustrates me because you mentioned it. They're an amazing team. Like they have the talent, they have the natural talent. And the fact is they do not play all the time. They are not running scrims regularly. Like yes, they do reach out for scrims here and there, and I do think they practice and they're playing ranked games in there. But like they don't have anything really pushing them. Essentially, it is basics team, and I mean. Victory is always like when it comes to like title victory, like NASL, they got second place in the first season. They've made it to top 8 plenty of times in the NACT. They've made it to playoffs every time so far in the past 2 seasons, but the number 1 position always eludes them, right? It always escapes. And a lot of times it's like, I think playoffs last season, Basic didn't show up for playoffs. So they had to like bring in a sub. Yuzi ended up doing gold lane. He's normally XP lane. It's always kind of something with them. Like there's always some sort of behind the scenes matter that holds them back. And there just isn't that, it feels like there's not really like a solid enough glue that holds their team together and drives them forward. And I do think that they're a team that like could reach, there's no real ceiling for them if they just put their heads to it and they stuck together and they had enough drive behind them. And that's kind of like the same thing I see with Insomniac sometimes. Like I just feel like there's kind of like a lack, like, maybe players are busy, they're doing other things, and that's going to continue to be a lack until big organizations get involved in North America Mobile Legends, until players can get paid to play and really put full time into it. But also there's other teams who aren't getting paid to play and they are putting that big motivation into it. So the Valley, if they want to be an S tier team, if they want to be if they want to take home a first place, there are some changes that need to get made. And I don't think it's really skill. Like I think a lot of these teams, it's not really like skill that needs to be improved. It's practice resume. It's it's behind the scenes drive, which will interpret into a little bit better skill and put them at that, BTK level, world stage level, but it's definitely going to be, I think, some time and just some, there's something that they just don't quite have that spark just yet.
Well, if raw talent is the fire, then the practicing and that the scrims are the steel that forms the blades. And like if any teams here, I feel like the Valley is carried up to this A tier by raw talent alone. Like, yeah, that's it. Yeah, it's crazy to me. I mean, I understand a lot of people are like, people have lives outside of this. I understand that. But in the scope of esports here and the scope of Mobile Legends and a professional scene, they have it feels like they have their priorities elsewhere, and it is kind of sad because they are so skilled. But when you're going up against teams, especially we've talked about it before, BTK, when you come against, they're not a team that they have raw talent. But in addition to raw talent, they have that drive. That's what separates them. And honestly, sometimes raw talent isn't enough, which is why they do occasionally take those losses. They always being the bridesmaid, never the bride for a lot of these tournaments and matchups. When it comes to the teams like New Wave, Area 77, or Insomniacs, who are practicing, who are always making sure that everything is sharp with them, and they do occasionally take those victories over the Valley when it matters.
Yeah.
So it is interesting interesting, and it's one of those teams that I love to discuss, and probably has like probably the biggest fan base coming into here. And I love seeing them, and I love watching their matches. But it, like you touched on it a little bit, it makes me kind of sad because I'm like, man, what they could do if they applied themselves to North America, and they kind of get riddled with those problems. Like I said, not always a priority for them, but I mean, as far as raw talent, dude, it's unescapable there.
Yeah. Up next, Ethereal. Now I moved everything wrong side. I clicked on my OBS screen to move it instead of by the actual screen. So Ethereal, all right, to give an example of Ethereal, kind of set the scene for Ethereal. All right, so there was two new teams, essentially. 4 new teams, actually, like 3 new teams that came into the Squad League. Simpsons technically made it in through qualifiers, but they have been in the past 2 seasons. They just didn't make it to playoffs last season for the league, but they still won through qualifiers. The other teams that made it into the league through qualifiers was First Blood, Ethereal, and Vec Fantasy Main. We did not put Vec Fantasy Main on this list because they are not competing in the Challengers tournament. But to kind of set the scene, First Blood, most of the time, whenever a new team comes into the league, there is a gap. Like they have some trouble adjusting. You know, you go from playing ranked games, you go from, maybe you beat Area 77, you beat New Wave, you beat some of these teams in ranked games occasionally. When it comes to those 10 bans, when it comes to getting your team together on the night and making it count in a best of 3 fashion, a lot of teams do not flourish well. First Blood is a team that has flourished very well in this competitive scene. Ethereal, on the other hand, so far has not. They have not won a single game, I don't think. I think maybe they've won. No, they have not won a single game yet in the league. They've had 3 weeks and they've been losing. They have had some kind of decent opponents and everything, but not only that, they seem to be having a couple issues behind the scenes. So I just, for me, like currently, I hate to say this, and I know, and I don't want like people to get upset, and I hope that what I'm about to say like drives this team to do better. Currently, Ethereal to me is just another team on the registration. Like the only reason they're here is because they got invited, and the only reason they got invited is because they made it to the league. And yes, they made it to the league by going through qualifiers and making it to the top qualifiers, which is hard. Like there was a lot of good teams in qualifiers, so like they have proved themselves to that extent. But they're like in my eyes, like they just made the cut. So I need to see a lot from them. I don't even really have much more than that to say about them currently right now. I definitely put them in C tier.
For me, I'm going to start with the positive right now. Ethereal, man. They have come into they did make it through the playoffs. The pre-qualifying matches to get into the league. There is the drive there. They were able to make the times. They show up.
Yeah.
And they have gone through, man, one of the most unluckiest schedules to start off as a new team right off the bat. Gonna go up against Area 77.
Yeah.
First match in the league, you're gonna go against the former Challenger tournament champions.
Yeah.
And of course, I mean, Area 77 did Area 77 things there.
Mm-hmm.
And then the next match, it was Insomniacs, right? I believe. It was either Insomniacs or New Wave. I can't remember, but it was most of the.
They've gone against some hard hitters so far. They've gone against some hard hitters.
Not just hard hitters, the top.
Yeah,
it's been the top. It's been very frustrating, and man, anybody would get frustrated there because there's some games where you can learn from. Where oh man, I made a mistake at this lane right here. I should have done that. We should have rotated here. But man, the level that Area 77 and the rest of the top come at teams here, it's like and you sit there and there's just a whoosh that blows past you and you're like, what just happened? As they've already taken down your core, and it's very hard. And I mean, honestly, my hat is off to them so far. But we did see that frustration come to a peak during the Squad League as they took on Vec Fantasy Main and still had some troubles there. And from what I've heard and what I've gathered, it's this is the difference between doing ranked games with a group of friends and being with a team. From what needs to happen is you need to start thinking as a team. There is a place for frustrations. There is a place for the critiques during the match is probably not it. You need to focus. There needs to be that reasoning, that practice, the actual effort that goes into looking at what the meta is, what you guys can put together, maybe having a little bit more meta picks on your side. I saw like one was a pick that most everybody saw coming. It was a Uranus into a Dyroth pick, which spelled doom immediately for them. And then you could tell by the rest of the game, there was just frustration in the team with where you saw like that weak link come in, and it basically reflected on the rest of the team. And it's those games is where you get tried and tested as a team. Can you keep it together? Especially when you lose in a way like that. Can you like take that, dust yourself off, and come back and be like, all right, guys, man, that was a rough loss. How do we come back from it? What did we do? What did we do wrong here? And come at it instead of getting so frustrated that you're going to want to take a step back. And that's what kind of separates teams at this level or at a higher level is that experience of being a team. I'm not sure how long Ethereal has been playing together. I assume it hasn't been as long as like a First Blood, maybe not as long as an Aether Explicit, but there are still some teams. There's some cohesion that needs to be built, and a lot of people they underestimate the type of effect that has of the work that needs to be done. Like I said, you can get teams like the Valley with just an amazing skills. Like honestly, like it's like they're playing with their feet. They don't care, and they just know how to do it. They're fast hands and everything. Aether Explicit is not at that level of skill, and that means you need to know where your strengths are, and you need to study hard. You need to go in and you need to examine your opponents. What do they like to pick? Where's the meta? What counters what? How are our rotations and stuff? How is our communication during matches and stuff? There needs to be that effort in there, or you're going to continue to take these losses and not be able to gain anything from them. Because honestly, you can gain something from every type of loss, everything that happens to you. I mean, honestly, that's one of the biggest things I'm hopeful about with Aether Explicit too, because even before Boca joined there, Boca had a very rough time in the squad league with his team, the Kingdom. Kind of the same type of frustrations there, where they just could not get a handle on what they needed to do to overcome some of these matches. Same thing with Aether Explicit as well. They had issues. They did have a few more wins than the Kingdom, which Boca was on, but not by many. And that's kind of why I'm very hopeful for Aether Explicit to kind of bring that up, but also with Ethereal. This is going to be the main stage. This is where you need to kind of have that talk, that rallying cry for your team. Be like, all right, I know we've had troubles. I know, like let's talk. Let's find out, like even if it's just sitting down with the team, like what do you have issues with? What can we do to help? And go through everybody on your team and start working on that. We do have the matches coming up this weekend. We're talking about the Challenger tournament's going to be coming up. It's going to be the first round, and honestly, I mean, I have no doubt Ethereal is going to make it past that. They're definitely a great team. They've made it through the qualifiers to get to the squad league, which isn't a small feat. Great. I have friends and other teams that I've seen, great teams, didn't make it that far, unfortunately, and they did. So there is the skill level there. It's just that temperament and team building, which is so important. You're not going to be able to get there alone, just throwing 5 guys together. You need to build yourself as a team, and that's what I'm hopeful to see from them. And that's kind of, unfortunately, with that lack of that team synergy right now, it's kind of why they're at C tier here for me right now.
Most definitely, same. And they have the possibilities. And you mentioned something. You said that you're taking those losses and growing for them. And I actually want to skip Team Sexy for a second, because that kind of leads, I feel like, really well into this team right here, the Simpsons, right? And anytime I talk about the Simpsons, I feel like Deuce Knights are kind of cohesive for them, even though I don't consider the Simpsons a wild card team. For me personally, I have to put the Simpsons in B tier still, right? But the Simpsons are a team that, like, 3 or 4 months ago could have easily been C tier, right? Possibly. And I feel like the Simpsons are a team that they played in, I can't remember. Don't hate me for this, but I can't remember if they competed in season 1 of the NASL or not. But they've been competing for a while now in the past, like in just about all the NA events they've been in. And they're a team that have literally, I feel like I've watched them just get better and better and better and better, and they're just like working their way up, and they're just like they're taking losses, they're not getting to first place. Maybe they didn't make it to playoffs in season 2, but then in the Challengers tournament after that, they make it to top 4. I think they got 3rd place in that. So I mean, like, they're a team that's doing very well, and they're growing more and more and more and more, and they are taking these losses and learning with them and rolling with them, and just perfecting their craft. And I think you give them another few tournaments. Maybe they don't. I don't think they're gonna make it to M4 this year. Like, unless they do something shocking, unless they really pull together. But it's like a team that I don't count out. Like, it's a team that, like, if this team like really honed themselves in, off screen for the past month or two, things that maybe we haven't seen completely. Like, I could see them like coming into NACT and doing really well. Like, if they put in the hard work for it, like they could be an A tier team. They just need a few things to work on. They're one of those teams that, like, we see you get a Lord push and maybe you forget to sync your waves. The minute details of what separates like a top of the line team to someone that's just trying to break through that wall to get there. And the Simpsons are on their way there. It's just like being consistent throughout the whole thing. So I definitely I like the Simpsons. Their team, like how you were talking about Deuce Knights, a team that like you really enjoy watching. Simpsons are a team that I really enjoy. I think they have a nice solid. They have a solid team of players. They don't switch their roster all the time. They have a pretty good drive behind them. Like, they have a pretty good just branding overall and everything when it comes to like looking at a team in like a professional light. I enjoy that aspect of them a lot. I think now it's just kind of polishing up some of their gameplay, some of their drafting, some of everything. And they're definitely like a team that I feel like is on their way.
Yeah, it's interesting that you brought it up. About the mistakes that separate A and B, and not even always mistakes. We talked about First Blood being here because they are unproven, and that's kind of where OSP kind of sits, because they had those matchups. They went against the Area 77, the New Wave, the Insomniacs, and they still had to brush up on those little things. Like you were saying, not syncing up the waves with a Lord push, maybe face checking a bush during the late game and being caught out when they weren't supposed to be, or like not sticking to the game plan, because we're talking about a team who does know how to play, who does know more than the basics. They know the advanced and expert level stuff, but it's whether they apply it 100% of the time. And in those frustrations, sometimes you kind of lose track of what you're supposed to be doing.
30 minutes into a game, right?
Yeah, 30 minutes into a game, and you're just like, oh my God, I'm just going to go for the blue. Yeah, I'm just going to go for the blue. And then the entire team's waiting for you. And then you're like, damn. It's little things like that. That's what separates the B from the A tier right now, and it's what they need to kind of always have in their mind. If they go, there's no doubt that they can move up. If they go into NACT, always repeating that is like, remember the basics, remember the basics, remember the basics. Every single thing that you're doing, remember what are you supposed to be doing. Don't make a call out, or don't do something in the heat of the moment. You got to remember the team, because they are so strong, and what's the word? They are consistent.
Yeah.
And that's one of the biggest things, is not only are they consistent, but they're steadily coming up in skill level, in drive, with that consistency. So they're building on top of that consistency because they're not just staying stagnant. They're not just staying at the C tier and just kind of existing. They're always building. They've been around for a very long time. They might not get it together as quickly as some of these other teams do, but they are. Like this is not the same team that we saw last season of The Simpsons this season that we're seeing, and it's not going to be the same level that we see next season. I guarantee you they're going to be even better than they were this season. But unfortunately, like you've said, it is some of those mistakes, because like, man, they have some great and skilled players that have been together for a while. Blazer, Helena, Cassandra. I think they Cold World and Mantap have been there for a while. Fallen, Damien. They're just, man, they are such a great team to watch, and I cannot tell you a time where, like the Valley, I remember them saying, "Oh, yeah, this guy isn't ready. We're not going to be able to play, or this person isn't able to make it," or like, or that has taken a loss and been like so frustrated at the team. Like they're just
They never upset. Like they're, and even if they lose a game, they don't upset. I still enjoy. Like there's sometimes when like I see a game, like a team lose, and I'm just like, man, like it's rough to cast over. Like it's like, man, like I feel like the Simpsons never really upset. Like even when they lose in style. You know, like they I don't know. Like I just
with class.
Like with class. You know, they never like. It's never like I don't. There's never really a time where I'm like, what are y'all doing? You know, like they definitely have what it takes. There just needs to be a bit more.
Yeah, exactly. Just kind of brush up on those things. Keep practicing. Honestly, like they're one of those teams who I can tell you, like by this time, and I don't want to put it too far out there, but like by like a year from now, you're going to see a different team that's even stronger. No. Yeah, is that they're going to be great because they keep improving. They haven't floundered. There hasn't been a point where I'm like, oh, they just fell apart there. Like no, it's always been kind of a steady. It's like, okay, at this point, they're pretty much outmatched, but they handled that in class, and then the next match they're just going to pick themselves back up and try something again. And man, and that's what brings them up to B tier here. And I know sometimes like a B tier isn't like too high, but I mean on here as far as NA is concerned, man, they are an enjoyable team to watch, and just one of those class acts as far as just playing here of like, I wish more teams were kind of like that here.
And you just made a good point, something to explain real fast. Maybe I should put it, maybe I'll put this at the beginning of the video. Like this tier list is not like NA in total. Like it's not like there's hundreds of teams on the C list and hundreds of teams on the B list that I just haven't included. You know what I'm saying? Like this is like literally like a tier list of just these 10 teams or 11 teams, right? So like there's a lot of teams below C tier in all of North America, you know? I don't think there's like these teams on A tier lists. I don't think that personally, I do not think there is a single other team that's not listed here overall that belongs on A list, that like just didn't get invited to the Challengers tournament or something like that, or like I just don't have a logo for you because I don't know about you yet. Like currently, I do not believe there's like any team like Gosu, some other thing. Like I just don't think there's many other teams that really belong on that A list, even though they're not included on this list. Like this is like strictly a microcosm list of these 10 teams, right? Or these 11 teams right here. But before we drag on any farther, Team Sexy. Team Sexy for me, honestly, currently, I feel like they're B tier. So, I think that like they're really on the edge here. Like even with, so they recently, like the problem with Team Sexy is like roster, right? The only two consistent members they've really had is Apple, Nicolette, whatever you want to call her, their mage, and best player, the jungler. Best player, people have known him forever. And the only thing, like he's never taken a first place championship home. He's never taken anything like that. But he's also never really been part of a steady team. Right now, what they're looking like is best player Nicolette, Churro, Matcha Green Tea, and I forget who else. But I don't think Lord Bossy's coming back for the NACT. I think he's pretty much out of commission at this point. Maybe he is, maybe he's not. But either way, they came into the league not doing amazing. They lost to First Blood the first week. They've since the first week, they look much better. They look like much better, I feel like they've gotten some of that synergy down. But I still I don't know. I can't with what they have right now, I cannot put them on the same level as like Area 77, New Wave, Insomniacs, Valley. For me, they just have to be in B tier.
I feel like they are suffering right now from past success. I feel like last season, with the inclusion of Zia and Shark on the team, you had a full team like the Valley who was just so skilled that that's all they had to lean on to get victories. They didn't need to plan things out. They just went in there. They just threw out whatever they wanted. And yeah, they just had that raw talent. And that was 5 players of talent that played together that were fine. Unfortunately, now they're learning without Shark. Without Shark, without Zia, there is still talent on the team, but you've only got really those 3 players, Churro, best player, and Nicolette, who have played together, who are trying to bring in these other two players and to kind of bring them into the fold. And talent isn't enough anymore. Yeah. This is where you're going to have to start planning. You're going to have to start coming up with drafts. We've seen some growing pains as well. Yeah. Nicolette was a little frustrating watching her first game in the league play as a roam. Yeah. But after that, because I think she shines as a mage. And personally, when I'm like putting up groups together, 5-mans, like I want those skilled players to be playing in the mage position, because I feel like you're going to get wasted playing a roam. But honestly, she had, after that first match, a little bit of hiccups there. But after that, she has absolutely shined as a roam, supporting the team and taking them to victory. The last match included, I think it was against, was it against the Simpsons? That
they won. They 2-0'd, right?
Yeah, swept them, and in a completely different team than we've been seeing. So they're starting to get it together. They realize that they can't. It's not just their talent and genius alone that they're going to need to be that they can just do here. Because even then, like even with that, with doing raw talent, there was a wall that they hit at a certain point last season.
What like in a perfect example, and I'm sorry for cutting you off, but like you got. Example of what we keep talking about with this like pure talent only takes you so far. Team Sexy last season had Shark, like you said, Shark, Zia, Nicolette, best player, Bossy, right? You had a team full of hitters that swept the whole season. During the group stage of season, and they did not take a single series loss. They only took like 2 or 3 game losses, but they won every single best of 3 series, had the first place position when they went into playoffs, had a bye to the second round. They get swept by Insomniacs in the playoffs, and then they get swept by Area 77 for the 3rd place game, right? So they end up taking 4th place in the playoffs, and they don't win a single game in the playoffs. Then you know what happened? That was like the week, or like 2 or 3 days, or like a week before playoffs started, we had the huge meta change. All those new patch notes came out. The tank meta was in, Basha jungle, all these new things were like becoming popular. And because there was no practice, like I talked to Nicolette, I talked to some of them after all that, and they were like, we just weren't practicing. We weren't playing. They felt like talent could just carry them through the finals and take it easy. And they got dominated. So I mean, it's just a perfect example. Like if you're not staying up to date, if you're not doing these things, it is going to bite you, especially with how liquid and how lucid Mobile Legends is when it comes to meta, with how like it's just constantly moving and changing items, new heroes, who's good, who isn't. These things are constantly moving every month. You have some slight change to the meta that you have to adapt to, and that was just a perfect example of it in season 2.
Yeah, and to say where the hard work gets you to be able to get you in a position that would overtake all of that talent. But like I said, it's what I've been seeing now is that Nicolette and Best Player have been doing their best to kind of spread that knowledge, spread that experience that they have and that talent to kind of create this nice and solid team that is starting to come together.
Yeah.
But like we said, it's right now there have been those rocks. It's a little late right now to be coming together. They have come together. They might have something special to show us at the Challenger tournament, but they still don't have that experience yet. But man, I do want to see how well they can do here and pull themselves together, because man, it is exciting to watch. Like Nicolette, probably one of the best
mages.
Best mages, period. I don't want to. No
one of the best mages
to Boca Roscoe or anything like that. A lot of people are like, "Oh, she's probably one of the best." As far as it's interesting. I'd love to see how, because she just is so skilled, and I know it's just honestly, I can't say enough about them, but they're one of those teams who's going to grow, and they're going to grow fast once they hit that rhythm. They did get that victory over Simpsons. I want to say last weekend, and it propelled them in my eyes right now. I'm like, oh yeah, this is the Nicolette. This is the best player that I saw last season, and starting to kind of build that cohesion. Like, because honestly, like I said, you get really skilled players, that synergy, you don't need to build that. It automatically happens. They just emanate that synergy. But there are those teams where you have to build it. I feel like that is what New Wave has done. I feel like that is what Area 77 and Insomniac's done. I feel like these aren't people who are just naturally came together and were like, oh man, we're fucking awesome. We're awesome together. But these are people who have worked at it. And I feel like that's what's going to be happening with Sexy here in the very near future. But yeah, B tier right now, until we start seeing how well this newfound synergy starts going when you get into the tiers with Area 77, Valley, Insomniacs, and New Wave.
Yeah, and I mean, we'll definitely be covering like I know during this NACT, me and you will both be casting, for those that don't know. But like days that I'm not casting, like I'm gonna be covering this, and like probably like weeks and like on weekdays in between the games and stuff, I'll be going back and watching the games, posting out content. So we'll be covering that. The North American Squad League will be covering the NACT throughout the entirety of it, most likely. But you guys, to everyone watching the video this long, you like how we baited you in and kept BTK as the last team. BTK. Fucking C tier, bro, obviously.
Okay.
No. So BTK, S tier. There's not much that has to be said for them. Third place world champions. Definitely top tier. Essentially the best team in all of North America. Currently, numbers wise, gameplay wise, they are the best team that America has to provide. The only thing, I think for once, they may actually have a challenge in this tournament. I think for once, I don't think they're just going to sweep through and not take any game losses like we've seen in previous tournaments, because like BTK is known in previous NACTs to literally just go the whole tournament without taking a single game loss. I don't think it's going to happen this time. I think they do sweep some teams. I think they do very well. I think they make it to finals. Do I think that they just go completely unscathed? I don't think it's going to be that easy. Also, some hiccups for them. They're bringing in a new mage, as a lot of us know. Some say it's going to be Jay, Onyx Jay. Some people, there's been hints of Raquel. I'm not going to quote anything because I do not know exactly. I don't have any exact information. And of course, none of us are really going to know until the time comes that we see them play. So that could be a hiccup. Another thing, I don't want to hear the excuse if they do lose of like, oh, there's some role changes, because the reality is Zia's going to be in gold lane. We know this, right? Private. But Zia's been playing gold lane. Zia played gold lane for Team Sexy all last season of the NSL, and he's an amazing gold laner. His Wanwan is phenomenal, and Wanwan is like a hot commodity right now. Chicken is going to be an EXP, and he was an EXP laner forever. Until M3, he was an EXP laner, essentially. Like, we know he has the capabilities to do that. And then Zane's going to be jungling, Shark's going to be tanking. So, like, really, like I don't think them having any of this is going to affect them too much. I think they're still going to be a well-oiled machine, and it's definitely going to be a huge challenge for any team to get a actual win against them.
Yeah, it's for me. I think a lot of things that can be overlooked. They for me are one of the perfect amalgams of that talent versus effort and work. As much as skilled as these guys are, they don't just rely on that. They practice every day. Yeah. They come together. They have their scrims. They went to the Philippines to get like they're like as far even if in any aspect right now they have done it harder than any of these other teams, even when it comes to just all-out work. Zane, since coming from, I followed him here from Arena or from another game, and he has done nothing, 16-hour days playing this game to get himself up to par here, and so good that able to make marksman meta work in M3 when marksmans were getting thrashed on by assassins.
Yeah,
it was just it's ridiculous in that sense. In another sense too, what they have going for them is also part of kind of where they fell off in M3 as well. Is Zane is a Swiss Army knife right now.
Yeah.
In NA, he is a player. He's the coach for that team. He does the studying for it. He's the leader for that. He makes the shot calls for it. And like, honestly, it's probably, that's what also provides that synergy for that team, is because it's all just been like basically everybody like feed Zane, do what he says, and we're going to be good. But like I said, when you have that one person that's on the team and he starts to get frustrated at M3, when he does have those picks that go against him, it was easy to fluster him there. I don't know if that's going to be an issue this time, because I do know that they have kind of split off with who's going to be making the shot calls, but that is kind of like a little thing to be paying attention to. I am hopeful for the rest of these teams to get at a level, because honestly, man, everybody knows the players on BTK sans the mage, because we don't know who that is yet, because they have made, it's not just being on the team with Zane. Shark, an absolute
Shark's one of the
ridiculous
best. Yeah, Shark's one of the best tanks in the world. I'm not just talking like like North America. Shark is like and you hear Philippine players talk about him. Like you hear players and casters across seas talk about Shark as like being an amazing tank. Like Chicken, an amazing offlaner. Like the whole team, it's like it's definitely not just Zane's team. Like BTK as a whole is a solid team, and it's definitely something that just it's what makes them who they are.
Yeah, and that's what's amazing about it too, because I know a lot of people, they only really talk about Zane, but I feel like that's where a lot of these teams kind of come up short, because it's not just even where you saw in the worlds where a lot of teams came up short, because they only focused on Zane, because they while he is, I do feel like I just said, Swiss Army knife, he's a man of many talents, and he brings those to the team. But you're not just facing Zane, you're facing the team. And when you saw teams come together and create a plan for the team, not just for Zane, even letting him have his favorite picks, it was a different story, where Blacklist was able to kind of go get over on BTK and get some surprise victories. And then I believe it was Onic. Was it Onic? Philippines, that it eventually were able to get over them too, because they stopped just trying to verse Zane. There's a rest of the team there that kind of makes him look glorious as well, and that's what I want to see from the rest of these teams here too. I mean, BTK, we already know they're top of the tier, top of the food chain here. This entire tournament, the Challenger tournament, is going to be, for me personally, it's to see how well NA has grown. Because I mean, I don't think it's a question. that's not a question to anybody where BTK is, how well BTK is, how good they're doing right now. It's not a question. Everybody knows they're top of the food chain. They practice. They've gone to the Philippines. They're ready to come here and kick ass and take names. But the real question that is on everybody's mind is, where is the rest of NA? Have we started climbing back up there to kind of match them? And honestly, I think right now is the best chance of any to see that, because we're not in a meta that has benefited Zain. Before M3, Zain had, I want to say, two and a half years of just playing his characters, the ones that he liked, the ones that he favorited, and to get comfortable on that, and then just force his way through that with M3. Now he's had to change things up. He's had to go into a meta. He's had to learn. I mean, and not to take anything away from him, because he's
doing well with it.
Yeah, he's doing well with it. But there is still, like I said, he hasn't been playing these at the same intensity. It hasn't been 2.5 years of playing Barats, of playing these other picks to that intensity. So this might be a good opportunity for other people to kind of catch up with that tank meta. But man, I'm going to tell you right now, these teams, we have already started to see a shift across the seas with meta, and how other teams are starting to see treat the tank meta, and how they're able to counter it with with the Natalias, with the Angelas, with the Selenas, and BTK's right up there with them. They're paying attention, and they're going to bring that here to the championship or the challenger tournament, and I'm hoping that the rest of the teams are ready. I mean, man, it's almost interesting. I'm trying my best not to just sit here and attaboy BTK, because we all know, honestly, I'm a big fan of them. I've been watching them since I first came over to Mobile Legends. I've been a big fan of Zain since he first came over here, because I knew what kind of talent he had in other places as well. But I mean, I've said it before, I don't want BTK to lose, but as far as NA concerned, the best thing for us is to bring it to them in a big way. But yeah, and honestly, man, I've been so impressed by them. They are the epitome. I don't care what type of attitude some people have. They don't like this, they don't like that because of BTK. I know a lot of that has died down now, ever since before M3, and now it's kind of died out. But I mean, as far as the intensity, the skill level, the dedication, every team should aspire to at least bring those aspects of BTK to their own team. I don't care what you think about, if you think that they're egotistical, if they BM too much. I mean, honestly, they're at a position where they can do that, and other teams can't, because they haven't proven themselves. And I'm just excited. I was so happy when I heard that they're going to be competing in here, because it's like savoring to me. It's like, I want to see what Area 77, New Wave, Insomniacs, or the Valley can do against New Wave, or against BTK now, because they are at the top of the food chain. They are that dragon, and we are our guys. They've been practicing, and they've been screaming their asses off to the point that, and that's what's been missing in NA, is an actual platform for these other teams to be screaming back and forth, to be competing and improving against higher teams instead of just rank. So I definitely want to see how BTK matches up against that, and I'm hopeful that it's not going to be like what we saw last Christmas. Was it December?
I mean, we haven't seen BTK hasn't competed ever since in almost a year now. They haven't been in NACT. I don't think since last qualifiers, which was, we're coming up on that time. It's been almost a year. I think, a lot of people whenever there's times when I'll talk about BTK and some of the teams, and it's I also big BTK fan. When they went to M3, I was one of the people that was standing up for them when they didn't do great during the group stage and this and that and things like that. And I don't want anyone to ever take it out of context whenever I say things I hope I would enjoy seeing I'm an American. I'm a fan of America. And I know that if other teams can challenge BTK if other teams can, challenge or beat BTK, it means that it's good. That's essentially means that the Mobile Legends North America scene is healthy. When you look overseas, you do not see the same team winning MPL every year. You do not see the same team winning M3. You don't see the same team winning MSC. You see a handful of teams that are all constantly practically neck and neck. And that is what NA needs. So my goal, my hope is that all of these A teams become S tier teams, every time we do a tier list like this, we're like, I don't know, man, it's hard because, Area 77 could do this, or New Wave could do this, or BTK could do this. Like that is the goal of what we want North America to be. Currently, I feel like we're getting there. I definitely feel like they're getting there. I think this tournament will be a great representation of where Mobile Legends in North America stands in general, and where these teams stand in general, because we haven't seen BTK compete in so long. And right now they are kind of like the podium of where we rank some of these other teams. Can you compete with BTK right now? Can you?
And that's kind of one of the things I wanted to stress about this list too. Being C tier doesn't mean that your team is bad. No. It's just in the shadow of BTK, which is honestly, we talked about where we would start this list. Would we start it at BTK or would we start it somewhere else? And honestly, it's at some points it might have made sense to start it at BTK, because it would have given a little bit more structure to why AE and Ethereal are at the C tier, or why Deuce Knights are wild cards, or First Blood is at B tier. Because what it comes down to, especially for me, is what have you proven? And BTK has proven that they can take it to Worlds, that they not only can take it to Worlds, but they made us the second region, the second place region
America
of Worlds. I mean, it's
America.
It's so they have proven. And that's what puts them at S tier. And that's what eludes the rest of A tier right now is, have you proven that you can take it to Worlds and something like that? And I'm really eager to see this answer, because I think this is what a lot of teams have been talking about right now is how are these teams gonna, it's come from two different avenues. It's either how are these teams gonna perform, or BTK is gonna trounce everybody, which I hope is not true. I love BTK. I'm a huge fan of them.
But you gotta look at the bigger picture,
if I want NA to succeed, I want to see these teams improve to a point where BTK can't do that anymore, where BTK is going to come in here and be like, man, these guys have gotten good. We actually need to kind of throw something great together.
That doesn't mean we want to see them lose. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean but it's and it's just that picture that I think so many people don't get. You vote for your favorite team, of course, but at the same time, if there's never going to be a challenge that's why BTK is going overseas. That's why they want to go to the Philippines, because they just feel like there was no challenge here. So hopefully it does happen. Cue the Bald Eagles. Go America. I think I do like the way this list turned out. I think it's solid. Hopefully, after this NACT, there's a couple more logos to add on to this in the future. Qualifiers coming up. They just released the M3 video January 1st to January 15th. I mean, M4 video January 1st to January 15th. We have official dates on that. So if you guys disagree with us, if you agree with us, whatever, leave it in the comment. Just try not to be rude. Of course, we're going to go against what some people believe is right and wrong. This is just our opinions. It's not facts. It's nothing like that. I'd be
eager to see what people think. Even if they would move somebody, if they move them up, move them down, I'd be eager to see what people think, because I love people's interpretations of the matches that they've seen for these guys, or if they think some of these guys might have something unexpected to take out during the Challenger tournament.
I'm going to leave a link for this exact tier list that you can use it if you want in the description as well. So feel free to click on it, use it, post it in the Discord. I'm always glad to debate people in Discord and talk about whatever. So So yeah, thank you everyone for watching. It's been a pleasure. If you guys haven't already, make sure you also check out Private. He streams on Twitch. He also casts in the Squad League, and he'll be casting in the upcoming tournament that we've been talking about all day. So make sure you check him out. Yeah, thank you everyone. It's been a pleasure. We're out.
Cheers.